We start out with Ben working on the extranet communications module in his room, trying to find out anything useful on the hybrid and what the DN aliens were up to on Earth, asking his usual contacts if they'd known anything or known anyone that would have exactly, as Gwen walks into the room seeing Ben acting like a workaholic, and walked over to the computer. Finding anything useful? She asked, with Ben shaking his head no and sighing while rubbing his eyes as he began telling her that none of his contacts seemed to have anything useful that they could use to find out where the next place they should hit would be, with Gwen seeing that Ben looked exhausted. Gwen asked if he told his parents about what happened, with him saying that he didn't because they weren't aware of all the alien stuff and he'd like to keep it that way for now. Maybe he'd tell them once everything was over and the dust had settled, and he wasn't really sure. While tears began to form in his eyes and Gwen hugged him, trying to help him feel better in some way. Gwen then says, "You know what we should do?" as Ben looked up at her, still a bit saddened but slight curiosity appearing, with her continuing on, telling Ben that they should go out, just the two of them, and do something to help get his mind off of it. Ben tries to say that they should, but was cut off by Gwen saying that if he got any messages they'd still be there when he got back to check. Ben sighs, knowing that Gwen was right, and agrees, stating that he couldn't help but feel like she was just using the date to help him cheer up, to which she asked if there was something wrong with her wanting to do something to cheer up her boyfriend, and he says no. Ben suggests they hit the pier, and she agrees to that. Kevin asked if they'd need a ride for that as he walked into the room too, to which Ben says that he has one, with Kevin joking if he'd been borrowing one of his parents' car, to which Ben says that, "Actually, I was gonna take mine," surprising Kevin as he asked if Ben has his own car, to which he responded that he does, but he doesn't take it out often, just for special occasions. Ben then asks Kevin if any of the plumbers he knew of had anything useful, to which Kevin sighs and states that none had anything useful, sadly, then goes on to ask Ben more about that car of his, which Gwen stating that Ben drove a classic, as the three of them went out to the garage and Ben pulling a tarp off of his car, with Kevin commenting, "Classic is right, looks like it's straight from the 1960s, fresh off the showroom floor." Once they'd gotten to Saturday, Ben had pulled up dressed nice, but obviously not too nice since it was just to the Piers amusement park area, and went to the door knocking, waiting for Gwen. He'd brought her flowers, all that good stuff. Her mom said to have Gwen home by 10, and Ben says that he will, and opens up the door for Gwen to get into the car before then leaving to go to the pier. While driving that way with the top down, Julie, who had been doing something in town for the school paper, had seen them drive by and was surprised seeing Ben driving a classic car, and began to follow on her moped, but staying far enough away that she hopefully wouldn't be spotted, wanting to know more about what was going on exactly. Ben's Omnitrix began to beep as Gwen asked him what that was, with them walking into the amusement park, and Ben says he's not sure what the Omnitrix is doing, with Julie hiding off to the side writing down what she could at least hear. And Ben's plumber badge then began to beep as well. Ben says that he recognizes, and tells Gwen it's a distress signal and tries to figure out where it's coming from since it was probably somewhere close by. They then heard screaming with people running from the bumper cars as one of the cars attacks on its own with a familiar green and black circuitry pattern glowing. "Is that a galvanic mechamorph?" Ben then questioned, looking surprised as it started to try to attack him and Gwen, though the two jumped out of the way, with Gwen yelling that they were messing up their date, getting mad. But Ben tells her that they should try to lead it away from others, and she nods as the two take off running with the car chasing them. Julie chased them, staying a safe distance away, curious as to what was going on, though Ben had taken notice of that and told Gwen that she should dive out of sight and change into her Lucky Girl outfit, to which she nods and does so, and once she's done, Gwen starts attacking the mechamorph, distracting it and Julie, with Ben taking advantage and diving out of sight, hitting the watch, changing into Brainstorm, before rejoining the fight with Julie trying to record everything. The mechamorph leaves the bumper car and tries to take over one of the larger rides, managing to do so and scooping up Julie by mistake, as they then began to make its way from the pier as Brainstorm and Lucky Girl gave pursuit, Ben changing into Jet Ray to gain some speed so that they wouldn't lose them. When they caught up, they'd heard Julie screaming and so flew over asking what they'd done with the girl, with Julie saying she's okay and coming out of hiding, with Jet Ray and Lucky Girl landing on the ground, asking what exactly was going on. The mechamorph kept saying ship while trying to gesture over, and they saw the crashed alien site. Jet Ray says that they should investigate and ask Lucky Girl to get the girl to safety, to which Lucky Girl nods and flies her away, though Julie protests, saying that she wanted to see what was going on, though Lucky Girl tells her to leave it to the professionals. Ben goes to check it out, timing out once the girls were out of sight, and recognized the countdown timer, asking the little mechamorph if this is what they'd wanted, as it just kept repeating the word ship, and so he began checking for a way to shut down the energy field. Giving up because of running out of time, he instead changes into Chroma Stone and forced his way in before trying to shut down the self-destruct. After shutting it down, he then helped up the mechamorph that was in the ship as they'd introduced themselves as Basil, explaining about what had happened up to the point he'd lost consciousness. And Ben nods, understanding since he'd had plenty of dealings with various other aliens. Though he says next time he wants help, make sure they can actually say help. Ben says that he'd contact the plumber's relay station about getting their ship fixed, and as thanks, Basil gifts ship to Ben, saying that they'd seem to have taken a liking to him. Nodding, Ben contacted Kevin about what was going on and had asked how long it would take to help get his ship fixed, with Kevin saying not long. After all that was done, Ben went back to the pier with Ship and met up with Gwen, whom had ditched Julie, and said that after all that they should just head on home. Ben agreed, and the two began to leave the pier with Ship riding in the back seat of Ben's car with the top down, moving around excitedly.